What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here to determine who is going to make the NFL playoffs here in 2017. I'm going to go through the Week 16 schedule, the Week 17 NFL schedule, and we're going to go game by game, piece by piece, determining who's going to make the wild card, who's going to make the divisional round. I want to hear from you guys in the live comments. I'm going to screen share my screen of the ESPN playoff machine, so you know I'm not lying when it comes to seeding and who would end up in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, first, second seed. I'm going to go step by step through it. I'm going to screen share my screen so you can see it. If you guys are in the live chat, make sure you leave your comments and I'll discuss them and comment on them at the end once I've gone through all of my picks, because I can't screen share and look at the comments at the same time. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to go just schedule. So we'll see what happens in the NFC and AFC, and then we'll discuss the matchups game by game. So let's go to the screen share. And you should be able to see a bunch of screens right now. I am on ESPN. Let's zoom in a little bit here. Okay. So I am on ESPN. This is the ESPN playoff machine. You can search it up on Google if you've never heard of it. Search it up. You can basically do anything you want. You know, if you've never heard of this, you can go by win percentage, home team, away team, offensive rank, defensive rank. You can simulate it that way, or you can pick the games yourself and you can, you know, just basically it will determine the tiebreakers. It will go through all the instructions so you don't have to search up all the rules and who goes in and who doesn't. You just have to pick the winners. So let's go through week number 16. And I've already made my picks. You guys have seen my picks. We've done a pick video. So I don't really have to discuss them very much, but let's just go through it nonetheless. So some games don't really matter, but I'm going to go through them anyways. So the Colts at Baltimore. Baltimore is currently in the 7th seed, I believe, in the AFC. They need to pick up this win to get into the picture. I believe they beat the Colts. I think they just have more to play for in that game. The Jets and the Chargers, another big game. The Chargers must win this game to keep their hopes alive for the playoffs. The Jets are done, but the Jets are a challenging team and have challenged a lot of people, especially at home. But they have Bryce Petty. They don't have Josh McCown. I'm not confident the Jets can get this win. I'm going to go with Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. Then you have Green Bay and Minnesota. This is an easy one for me. I'm going with Minnesota. No Aaron Rodgers, no hope for Green Bay. They basically mailed in the season. They have no chance to make the playoffs. So I'm going to go with Minnesota. Then it's the Rams and the Tennessee Titans. I'm going with the LA Rams to win big in this game. I think this drops the Titans currently out of the playoff race in week 16 because I think the Rams are just the better team. I don't like the way the Titans have been playing football at this point in time. And I think that the Rams are just a more complete team, playing better offense, playing better defense. They're a team that could surprise a lot of people in the playoffs. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Carolina Panthers. I'm going with Cam Newton and the Panthers. Yes, Jameis Winston looked better against the Atlanta Falcons, but Cam Newton's on a roll. That offense is playing a lot better lately, and the defense is still solid. The Broncos, Redskins, this is one of the games that didn't matter. I went with the Redskins because they're the home team. I think they've been playing better football. That's why I'm going with them. Jacksonville and San Fran. This game does matter a little bit for the Jacksonville Jaguars. If they do win and if the Pittsburgh Steelers do lose, they then take the 2nd seed. I think that's enough incentive for them to beat Jimmy G and the 49ers and hand Jimmy G his first loss. I think the Jaguars defense will just be too much in that game. This is another game that doesn't matter. The Bears and the Browns. I'm going with the Bears because the Browns are the Browns. The Bengals and the Lions. I'm going with the Lions in this game, even though it's on the road. The Bengals have been blown out the last couple of weeks. I think Matt Stafford is the difference in this game. I like their offense. I like their receivers. I like what they can do in the passing game. I think this game will be close. There's some returning guys from injury for the Bengals, but I think the Lions find a way to pull it out. Again, a team that's playing for more here. The Giants versus the Cardinals. I'm going with the Cardinals. They're at home. They're the better team by record, even if it's Drew Stanton, Blaine Gabbert, doesn't really matter. The Giants stink. They had a close divisional game against the Eagles, but that happens every once in a while. Miami, Kansas City. This will be an interesting game. The Dolphins are a lot better team with Jay Cutler at quarterback, as we've seen, even though he throws 3 touchdowns one week and 3 interceptions the next. Kansas City had a huge win against the LA Chargers last week. They were the underdogs. They're the favorite in this game, but I think that Andy Reid is starting to figure out how to get the best of this team, and I think Kansas City wins this game in a must-win. Then you have Seattle and Dallas, which is the biggest game of the week, arguably. You also have Atlanta and the Saints, which we'll get to. I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. I think Zeke back gives them the advantage here. It gives them some motivation. It gives them light at the end of the tunnel. And I think the Seattle Seahawks just had one of the worst losses. That was their worst loss they've had in 5 years. That's the worst loss they've had since Russell Wilson has been their quarterback. Dallas, I think, is the better team at this moment. I actually think they're playing the better defense. And I think that they can play some better offense. This is Zeke being back can open up their whole offensive game. So I'm going with the Cowboys. The Steelers at Houston. I'm going with the Steelers. This is supposed to be the J.J. Watt game. It doesn't really matter. The Steelers need to win this game to stay with a bye. Then the Patriots and the Bills. This very same thing for the Patriots. They need to win to stay in the #1 seed. The Bills, on the other hand, need to win to stay in the playoff hunt. So that being said, this is going to be a very close game, I think, in regards to the Bills are going to play them really hard. But I think at the end of the day, the Patriots, especially at home, are too much. I think they had a big confidence-boosting win against the Steelers, even though it was a close one. I'm going to go with the Patriots here. I think Gronk has another huge day. Atlanta at New Orleans. This is a game that earlier in the season, Atlanta took it. Very close game. This could go either way. That being said, I'm going with the team that fell short the first time. I think the Saints are going to win this game. They're at home. I really like what they've been doing offensively. I was kind of skeptical about Atlanta's defense against Tampa Bay. I think New Orleans watches that film, sees some of the advantages that Tampa Bay really took for advantage over the Atlanta Falcons. And I think that Atlanta, just a team that offensively hasn't overly impressed me from week to week. And if this game does get in a shootout in New Orleans, I'm betting my money on Drew Brees, Ingram, and Kamara. So the Raiders and the Philadelphia Eagles, Raiders are out. They're done. I think Nick Foles, the Eagles, still have something to play for. I think this is the week where the Eagles defense gets back on track. I'm going with the Eagles at home. Week number 17. So right there, looking at the end of week 16, it's the Patriots and the Steelers with the AFC buys, the Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC. Then you have the wild card teams, Titans, Jaguars versus Jaguars in the first round. You have the Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And you have Atlanta versus LA, Carolina versus New Orleans. Some pretty good matchups. Week 17, big matchup here, Carolina at Atlanta. Now, this is a game that Atlanta must win. Atlanta must win this game to make it to the playoffs. If they lose this game and Detroit wins, Detroit gets in. Dallas would be out, I believe. If Atlanta, Atlanta has to lose 2 games and Detroit has to lose 1 for Dallas to get in. So Dallas in week 17 would be out if Atlanta wins 1 game. So that being said, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons. I know this is a really tough game, but this, again, is an NFC South matchup that is at home for Atlanta. They played this first game tight. Carolina is playing really good football, but I think that the Falcons at home are going to be motivated. They need this win more than Carolina. I think their defense will be flying around. The crowd will have them in it, and I just think that's the difference ultimately. Just more on the line, more passion put into this game. Carolina might be resting a little bit. Then you have the Cowboys versus the Eagles that if the Falcons lose this game and Carolina wins, this is a huge game. I'm going to go with Dallas either way. I think Dallas finishes the season out strong. I think Philly will be resting some people in this game. The Bengals at Baltimore. I'm going with Baltimore to win this game. They must win this one to keep themselves in the playoffs and to secure that 5th seed. The Bengals, especially on the road, I don't see them beating Baltimore. The Browns and the Steelers, unless the Steelers on purposely lose to the Browns so that they don't go in 16. I don't see the Steelers losing this one because they can't afford to. I'm going to go with the Steelers. Green Bay at Detroit. I'm going with Detroit. Must-win game. This is in Detroit. No Aaron Rodgers. Simple for me. The Saints in Tampa Bay. Doesn't matter. I'm going with the Saints. They need this win for seeding positioning. Then you have the Jags and the Titans. This is a huge game. The Titans have to win this game to stay in the playoffs, but I don't think they get the win. I think the Jags win just because if they win and the Steelers lose, they're in the 2nd seed. And I also think that they, want to finish the season strong. They're a team that I think values momentum. The Texans in Indianapolis, I'm going to go with the Colts here just because I don't really care. But I think the Colts are just a team that has a little bit more fight, and I think Jacoby will be fighting there. Then you have the Bills at Miami. This is a game that matters for the Bills, not for the Dolphins. I'm going to go with the Bills. Even though it's in Miami, I might actually change that pick. We'll see where we go with that, but I'm going to go with the Bills right now. I might change my mind on that one. Kansas City at Denver. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a game that they, again, have to win. Denver is not a very good team, even though Denver is a divisional team and they could upset them. The Chargers, the Raiders, this should be an entertaining ball game, but I'm going with the Chargers to sweep the Raiders this year. This is in LA. They won the first one in Oakland. They're just a better all-around team, and again, they need to win this game to get in. The Bears and the Vikings, I'm going with the Vikings. Unless the Vikings sit everybody, even with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, I think they can beat the Bears in this game. It's at home. They've been dominant at home. Their defense is too good to lose to the Bears. The Jets at New England. New England, again, will be playing for something because if Pittsburgh wins, New England will need to win. I'm going with New England. San Francisco at LA. I'm going with the Rams here at home. I think they still want to get that 3rd seed instead of the 4th seed, which it may not matter. And also, you have to be thinking about if the Vikings lose, if the Eagles lose, the Rams could potentially jump up. Okay, so the Redskins and the Giants. I'm going to say, I don't know. Should we just say it's a tie for the hell of it? But I like the Redskins slightly more. But I think, you know what? This is tough. Actually, I'm going to go with the Redskins. Just because I think that Jay Gruden will have to fight for his job here. There is no head coach that's fighting for his job in New York. So I'm going with the Redskins. And then you have the Seahawks and Cardinals. This game ultimately won't matter. But I'm going to go with Seattle. So either way, even this Bills game, if I pick Miami, if I pick Buffalo, it does not end up mattering. So this is a game that I'm the most skeptical about. I could go with Miami. I could go with Buffalo. But again, at the end of the day, as long as the Chargers take care of business, they'll be in the playoffs. So looking at these AFC and NFC teams, the byes, New England 13-3, Pittsburgh 13-3, 1st seed for New England, 2nd seed for Pittsburgh, 1st seed for Philly, 2nd seed for Minnesota. It actually ends up very much like we've seen the picture right now, especially in the NFC, where they have the 3rd seed LA play the 6th seed Atlanta, the 4th seed New Orleans play the 5th seed Carolina. Then you have in the wild card in the AFC, Jacksonville is going to play against LA. LA is going to Jacksonville in that game. That's going to be a very good game. They played earlier in the year in that same location. Baltimore, 5th seed, 4th seed Kansas City. That'll be another close game. I really don't know who's going to win these games in the wild card round. It will provide for a very good wild card round. But again, looking at the final standings, the Cowboys just miss out at 10-6. The Lions just miss out at 10-6. Not good enough because the Atlanta Falcons won a crazy one against the Detroit Lions, which will ultimately end up costing the Lions. And then the Dallas Cowboys lost to the Falcons as well without Zeke. So I have the Falcons making the playoffs in the 6th seed, and then I have the Ravens and the Chargers making it over the Bills and the Titans in the AFC. So that's what my playoffs look like at this current moment in time. Week 17, if there's something that goes different, maybe the Falcons win this week, maybe the Bills win this week. Maybe something crazy else happens like an upset. Maybe the Titans win. So we'll see what happens in week 16, and maybe I'll reevaluate if it was enough, and we'll go to week 17 and reevaluate. But these are my predictions, week 16, week 17 for the playoff machine. Now let's get out of this. Let's stop. All right, so I'm back on the screen. Let's go back to the comments, and let's see what everybody else thought. All right, so I'm going to go. Training Solution says first. Cullen says, yo. Training Solution says, yo. Kellen Boy says, Patriots. Michael says, nice CM Punk shirt. Thanks, bro. Cullen Corey Sports Talk says, ready for Sunday, Mitch. I'm ready for Sunday, man. I can't wait. It's going to be a good one. Bodo says, Merry Xmas, bottom line, winter, ho, ho. What's going on, Bodo? Benjamin says, go Pats, go Pats. The Lions are going to lose it. Okay. Tyler Jones says, I don't know what happened to Mariota. He was good his first 2 years, then this year, not so good. Yeah, I don't exactly know either. Maybe the offensive line slipped off. I think the biggest thing is that the offense hasn't developed. It hasn't changed. And Mariota stayed the same. He hasn't developed as a passer. That people have started to figure him out that he can't pass the ball down the field. They still don't have good enough receivers. Their run game isn't as good. So I think that's a couple of reasons why. Bodo says Cam is going to go balls out for the rest of the season. He don't want to lose his job to Cap. Yeah, that's not going to happen when P. Diddy buys it. I think P. Diddy would just bring in Cap just for the fact of, do it for, just do it for the culture, P. Diddy's going to want to do that for Cap. So Tyler Jones says, I don't like a 10-second runoff ending the game. They should give the offensive team. That's what's going to happen to the Lions. According to my playoff predictions, the Lions are going to lose because of a 10-second runoff. Training Solutions says, yeah, for seed Eagles. Marco says, what's up? Tyler Jones says, I agree with your playoffs. Thanks, Tyler. Cullen and Corey says, I meant about our bet. Yeah, it's gonna be a good bet. Marco says, Eagles about to destroy the Raiders. Maybe. Great prediction, says Training Solutions. How old is my face? Says Killam Boys. Your face is, I don't know, 16 years old. Training Solutions says, Mitch, do you think the Titans draft a QB in 2019? I don't think so. I think ultimately they're going to stick with Mariota. This is the guy that they chose second overall in the draft. I think they're going to try and fix things around him before they try and see he's the problem. I think he's going to have another season like this where they finally evaluate that he might not be the guy. Michael says, I like your picks, Mitch. I'd rather have the Saints at the 3rd seed. How can we get that seed, you think? So looking at just readjusting it, I'm going to go back to the screen share for you just to figure this out. So let's go back to the screen share. Damn it. Okay. So going back to the screen share, I think that ultimately what would have to happen is, this is the big one right here, the LA Rams. The Rams would have to lose a game. So the Rams play the 49ers at home in week 17, which I don't think they're going to lose. And then you have week 16, which is the Titans in Tennessee. So if the Titans win this game, the New Orleans Saints would be the 3rd seed. So they would then play the Atlanta Falcons, according to my predictions, and the LA Rams would play the Carolina Panthers. That's what would happen. If the Rams win a game, they're back to the 3rd seed. Also, just going through some of the other things that could happen. Let's say, okay, so if the Panthers lose 2 games, let's see if the Panthers lose 2 games. Very unlikely. The Panthers lose 2 games, the Detroit Lions make the playoffs. If the Titans win 1 game, they're in the playoffs. Oh, the Bills are in the playoffs. Interesting. So, okay, this is interesting, guys. So if the Titans if the Titans beat the Rams or the Jaguars, they would not make the playoffs unless the Bills lose both games. Okay? So, going back to my predictions, if the Chargers lose 1 game, the Bills make the playoffs unless, again, the Bills lose 2 games. This is interesting. If the Detroit Lions lose 1 game and the Atlanta Falcons lose 2 games, the Dallas Cowboys make the playoffs. So there's a lot that could happen here. What else could happen? So let's say the Chiefs drop a game, maybe. Where is my predictions? So let's say the Chiefs drop a game. Where are the Chiefs? If the Chiefs lose to the Broncos, nothing happens for them. But if they drop 2 games, they miss the playoffs completely, which is highly unlikely. If the Eagles lose 2 games, the Vikings finish the 1st seed, the Eagles finish the 2nd seed. If the Vikings lose a game, nothing happens. What else could happen? If the Saints drop 2 games, the Saints would miss the playoffs if the Saints drop 2 games. Interesting. So, those are some of the scenarios right there. All right. Marco says, this season, Wentz and Goff, or last season, Winston and Mariota? I think Wentz and Goff have had better seasons, considering that Winston and Mariota were nowhere near the MVP conversation. Both guys for Wentz and Goff are near the conversation. Do you think Drew Brees is underrated? It depends on if you're talking about career or right now. Right now, I personally feel he's overrated. From a career perspective, I think he might be underrated. I think he's a top 10 quarterback of all time, maybe 11th, but I think he's somewhere within the 10 to 12 range. As you'll see on my top 100 list, he's on the top 100. You'll see where he lands for me. So, Kansas City, what is the first playoff game due to poor clock management? Kansas City will probably lose their game in some way because of poor clock management. That's probably correct. What else? Tyler Jones says if Jimmy G beats the Rams. Mitch, if the Giants select a quarterback in the draft, they go Rosen or Donald or Barrett. I have to really, honestly, I have to look at like the scouting reports and I have to look at the film for each guy. I have not seen enough on each guy to give you that answer. So once we get to like the scouting portion of the offseason and the mock draft portion, we'll get to that point and I'll give you a straight answer on that. At this point, I don't think I can answer that. But I don't think it's Darnold. I think it's between one of the other two at this current point in time. So that would be my answer right now. Predator says, what if the Ravens lose a game or one game? If the Ravens lose, did I go through that? I think I did. The Ravens lose. I think if the Ravens lose 2 games, they're out. I don't think if they lose 1 game. I think if they win 1 game, they're in. Tyler Jones says, if Darnold is the best in the draft, second is Mayfield. Mitch, if the Giants select a quarterback, I already did that one. How can the Lions make it? Yeah, I just went over that, Chase. So the Lions can make it if the Falcons lose 2 games, right? So, yeah, the Lions have to win out, and I think the Falcons have to lose 2 games. So for basically the difference between Detroit and Dallas is that Dallas needs Detroit to lose and Atlanta to lose twice. And for Detroit, they just need one of those 3 teams, the Saints, the Carolina Panthers, or the Falcons to lose 2 games. So that's how the Lions get in. One bad thing about Brees, says Tyler Jones, is he throws over 10 interceptions. The only year he didn't is where he played the whole season. I don't know about this year. Only 1 year he didn't where he played the whole season. I misread that. Yeah, he does throw in a lot of interceptions, but he also throws a lot more passes than anybody else. But I do agree with you. At times, he has been known to throw too many interceptions. Training Solution says fact or fiction. Here finished with 25 plus picks. 19 now. I don't know. Fiction. Let's go with that. Fiction. Bodo says there's no good franchise quarterback in the draft. I agree with that. What up, says Rob. Zerline injury is a big blow for the Rams. Yeah, it might be. I think it won't be in the regular season. It might become playoff time when some game comes down to the line. Last kick. Should the Texans trade J.J. Watt since he takes up 10% of the cap? It depends what you can get for him, because I feel like at this point, J.J. Watt's value is way down. So, like, I'm always a guy that's like, what's the value for the player? And if J.J. Watt can come back and he can be J.J. Watt, there's almost nothing you can trade for him unless he's a friend. Like, you already have your quarterback. And I think the Texans, you know, they're going to be a good team in the future. They have Watson. They have receivers. They have a decent enough. They just need to build their offensive line a little. They need to build their secondary. And I think the Texans could be a Super Bowl contender in the next few years, to be honest. So it depends what you get for J.J. Watt. We'll see. We'll see. Training Solutions says, what do you say? Like, maybe what they could do is they trade him for a first and a second or something. If you could get that, which I don't know if you could, you probably only get like a high first round pick. And I don't think that's enough for a guy like J.J. Watt, who on any given day could be the best player in the league. So I hope the Cowboys don't make it, but I think when we beat the Raiders, we're going to help the Cowboys out, says Cullen. I don't think, well, the Raiders are in the AFC, so that doesn't really make much sense. You want to trade Lamar Miller to the Browns. I don't think the Browns are interested in Lamar Miller. I don't think many teams are interested in Lamar Miller just because he's a running back. I don't think running backs get valued that much. I don't think you could get very much for Lamar Miller. I think he's already signed to a big contract. I think you're pretty much stuck with him for the next few years. Training Solution says he's worth 2 firsts and a good player. I don't think maybe he is to you. I don't think he'd get that, though. What do you think about Cam Jordan and Lattimore? They're both Pro Bowlers. I think Lattimore has been a top 5 corner this year. I think he's going to be one of the best corners in the league for years to come. And Cam Jordan is one of the most underrated players in the league. I think he's definitely deserves his spot in the Pro Bowl. I think he could be an all-pro. The thing I've always liked about Cam Jordan is that he is one of the best DNs in terms of he can also stop the run, which is very crucial. I don't think DNs get enough credit for that. I think people just look at the sacks, but Cam Jordan is good in both facets. So that's what I think about those players. Can Cam Jordan win Defensive Player of the Year? I don't think so. But, you know, he's been really good. Do you think the running back position is overrated? I've said it. Yeah, it is. It's overrated. If you can get a running back, the best place to get a running back is you draft a running back. You get their first 4 seasons out of them. Then when you have to sign them, you let them go. That's how I feel about a running back. If you can get a stud like Zeke in the first round or a second round, third round, or if you can steal a lot of running backs. That's another, like you can get a Kareem Hunt or an Alvin Kamara. And then you have these guys for super cheap for like 3-4 years. And then you don't have to sign them if you don't want to. Like the problem with running backs is I really love running backs and I appreciate what they can do for a football team, but I just don't think they're worth the money because they are so volatile. They can get injured just like that and their career can end. So that's how I feel about running backs. But if you can get a young, good one, that's the way to go. You think Sidney Jones could be like Lattimore? I'd have to see him play more, but I don't think so. I think that type of corner only really comes once a draft, but AC is really high on him, so I'll say that much. Okay, you're gonna sit. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I think you're gonna sit your starters regardless, almost. Maybe you want the home field, but you're getting the bye anyways. Michael, but I think it's pretty low that the Raiders beat you guys. Michael says, I'm a Saints fan, so you think we should let Mark Ingram walk? I really like Mark Ingram. And the thing about Mark Ingram is this is his career year. Is he a free agent after this season? That's the question I want answered. Because if he's a free agent, he's going to get the most money he could have possibly gotten in these last 4 years. Because he stayed healthy too, which Mark Ingram hasn't been able to stay healthy, even though he's had really good years in the past. The thing about the Saints is I think if you let Mark Ingram go, it takes a lot away from your offense. But I guess it also depends who you could grab in free agency and in the draft. I just only if he makes the All-Pro, he's a free agent. What does that mean? How did the Browns screw up on a running back? I mean, seriously, how? Trent Richardson is awful. Fact or fiction? Bucks cut Doug Martin. That's probably fact. Ferocious Film says, Browns got that new GM, probably going to finally take a QB in the first round. Okay, he's a free agent after next season. So, yeah, I'd probably let him go because he'll probably be like 28 at that point. He had a ton of wear and tear in Alabama, and I think he's had a ton of wear and tear in the NFL, so I think it's probably time to let him go there. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this. Who will make the playoffs in 2017? Hope you guys enjoyed my predictions for week 16, 17, and who I think is going to make the playoffs. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. Hit the notification bell for updates just like this. And coming soon on Christmas, the top 100 players in NFL history. Check out that list. It's coming very soon. Not sure what's coming tomorrow. Probably start them and sit them for the Week 16 fantasy football finals. All right, guys, it's been Mitch. Thanks for joining me again. Peace out.